Hello there, and welcome to the second, interview / podcast that I'm doing with RPG designers. My name is Sir Aaron, also known as William, and today I'm joined by Renaud from the Inkplot Games. Is that right?
It is. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming on the show. So today, you're here to talk about your current Kickstarter, Exalted Vale, and we're hopefully also going to be talking about just D&D in general, game design, and also hopefully some topics about mythology. But why don't we start off with a more formal introduction to yourself and to Exalted Vale?
Sure. So I'm a veteran of the video game industry. I've been working in video games for 15 years now, and as a hobby, I'm doing RPG role-playing games since I can't say. I will have to reveal my real age, and so. This is why we are doing this project now, because I have this game design experience. I also know I have a network of people who can help me on this project, and I know RPG very well. And for the project itself, it's called the Exalted Vales. I try to do something a bit unusual, maybe, I don't know, but it's a region that a DM can put in their own universe, or just say you travel to this, and it's full of mysteries and the tales side of mysteries, a bit more like about dreams, not much about undeads and bloody warlords. And that's it. And we'll go in details later as we talk about this, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I got the impression from reading through some of the supplemental material that you sent me that, yeah, you're definitely aiming the setting more towards mythic storytelling rather than just bombastic battles and dungeon crawling, which is what a lot of D&D usually ends up being, I think. And, well, I think it's probably quite different from most other, or the majority of D&D settings, say, released by Wizards of the Coast, official stuff at least. So yeah, I'll probably put some images up at the moment so people can sort of see some of the art that you've had done for the product, and I'll also put a link in the description of this video so people can go and check it out if they think it sounds interesting. So yeah, on the topic of D&D, the setting is so different from a lot of what D&D is usually presented as. It did get me wondering whether the 5th edition open license was actually your first choice to design for, or whether there were other systems you were interested in writing for first.
That's a very good question, and yeah, to be honest, when we started the project, many people who just really pointed this out. Why D&D is more like about dragons and dungeons, that's for sure. And in fact, the answer is, the first is really just very humble. It's our first project. We are not known, so yeah, D&D offers this open free license, and there is a lot of players already. So that's really for the. Let's be honest, we should start somewhere where we have a chance to be seen.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I'm playing since so many years now, more than 20 years, and I've lost this perception of D&D is more for just kill monsters, and the other RPG can be for something else. We know, we know as experimented players that it's all about the players, the DM, what he wants to have a story. D&D works perfectly for very intriguing stories, and you can play Call of Cthulhu and just put it poorly, and you just have monsters to kill. So we're like, yeah, D&D is fine. It's a fantasy world. We'll go as far as we can with this.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And if anybody listening to this has also listened to the previous episode of this, me and Matt Finch spent a good long while talking about the merits of the open license. So I think it's definitely a good choice for as you say, like making that first splash. Do you think you would want to one day move towards making your own system or writing for other systems?
Well, first, the answer is a bit of history about this current project. Is At first, I was designing my own system. Like on my free time, after each session of gaming, I was just taking notes. Since maybe like 4 or 5 years, I was like, maybe one day I will do my RPG system. And when we started this Kickstarter project, and this idea, I brought all my notes, all my work on this. Was like, okay, we can have it in the D&D 5 system. And so yeah, I had this idea, but I think it's not worth it for now. And about the plans, we don't have any, because really we'll talk later about how the campaign was made. And I think there's a lot of wonderful content already available from the community to the community. So we're just doing this one. We want to do it very well, high quality, and we'll see later. No need to rush things. So yeah, so we don't plan anything. If we have a wonderful feedback and everybody loves it, we'll go for something else. But for now, we just focus on one thing and try to do it well.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Speaking of making like notes whenever you run sessions, as a tinker, a GM, and someone who routinely hacks RPGs, I definitely know that feeling where sort of you play a system long enough and you start wondering whether you could do better. And I'm trying to curb that a little bit and just focus on simpler things.
Yeah. But I think you really can design inside another system. It depends on your goals. I think if you want really to have the player has this kind of feelings during an adventure, yeah, you design the details of if we talk about 5e, of a few feats, a few archetypes, and you have the same as if you had your own full system. It takes a lot more time and efforts.
Yeah. I suppose with that in mind, then, would you say that you try to fit your mechanics to a specific narrative? Like, do you start from narrative and writing, or do you begin like thinking of cool mechanics and then fit a narrative around that?
Definitely, with a few exceptions, it's narrative first and then design. And I'd say that for first, of course, because I'm very experimented. This is like half of my career was people coming and say, we want this narrative now into a game. Okay, so I'm working after the narrative, but so that's easier for me to do. But the second thing is, I think the goal of any mechanic is, you have as a game designer, you know that very well. The end goal is what I want my player to have as an experience. What is the user experience? So to me, it makes sense to start with a narrative. I want my players to be afraid but a bit surprised. Okay, now what can I do that will bring them there? And you always find a way find a way in mechanics wise to fit. The opposite may not always be true. So for me, it's narrative to design.
I think you can do both, certainly. Like you think of some cool like gameplay effect or whatever, and then just thinking through the logical consequences of that, like if that's possible in the like laws of the universe, then what effect does that have on the world as a whole?
No, but I agree. It can go both ways for sure. And as I said, yes, sometimes I have great ideas, and just in mechanic wise, and then I will go to see that can make something so strange when it goes in the universe, in the lore, as you said. So sure.
I suppose that the thing that I'm thinking of specifically is you have these dreams in the Exalted Vales where every night people don't. Well, I'll see if I can explain it. You can correct me if I get this wrong. So in Exalted Vale, nobody dreams, or when they go to sleep, they sort of end up in this void state, which is very bad for their mental health. And so dreams have to be created by telling stories. And then this has a mechanical effect in that it gives you bonuses, right, to different stats depending on what kinds of dreams you have.
Yeah, it is something around those lines, yes.
Did you just think that's a cool idea and then I'm going to tie some mechanical effect to that first? Or did you want this like long rest system in place first and then a way to explain it afterwards?
Well, for the Dream Weavers specifically, yeah, it started with the narrative. So this is exactly what you explained, that it's not for all the Vales, but in a large region of the Vales, yeah, exactly. People can't dream by themselves. And I wanted to have this because when I want to create this universe first for the DM to have a lot of information, in the book, so he can really put life into this special world. So it's about rules, yes, but it's on everyday life. They go by a tavern, and they ask for a room, and they will ask them, "Do you want a room with or without dreams?"
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting twist on it.
Yeah, it's just 3 more coppers coin. It's nothing, but just for new players, are like, dreams included? Yes. What is a dream? They're provided in the room because, in fact, they are small squares of tissue that you burn next to your bed when you go to sleep. So it's very physical things. But it's just there are shops for this, and as you mentioned, you have to tell stories. But it's because this is where I want to put these tales, strange things. The dream weavers, they are witches, and they live in a special city called Drath, and they have this incredible power to weave dreams, but they have no creativity. They can't do it by themselves. So they need to have people come to tell them stories that they transform into real things. So they have pilgrims who come to this town, this city, just to tell stories. So it doesn't stop. And so it's like it's a life or death situation somehow, because if they don't do it anymore, everybody turns crazy. And so there is a cult that goes through cities to gather more stories to bring back. And for me, it may not have an impact in your game, but as a DM, you can say, "Oh, this morning you can see this procession of people from this cult, from the Dream Weaver. What are they doing? They just, open their stand here in the middle of the marketplace, and they ask people to come, and they just write down the stories, and that's it."
Yeah.
For what? Yeah, to bring back to that puts some colors in the setting.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. It like gives a special role to the bards as well.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to come to.
Yeah.
Then now I have this narrative, and then I want to go in the mechanics. And I always want, for mod thing, I just try to, have it's not much. If of course there are mysteries and things that players can discover about what's really happening in Draft and how really it works. There are, but if they just want to have they pass by, but they don't interact really with it. I just want to have something always that goes down to your character sheet. That really puts, in between just the lore and, okay, in my party. So yes, if you go to sleep with someone telling you a story who is talented, and it's only the bards, you don't need to consume this tissue dream. You just sleep. The bard itself can't do it, so he needs one because obviously he can't put himself to sleep. But it means that if in your party you have a bard and you are out of town, you're out of dreams, well, he's there. He's there. Okay, he can really provide nice dreams to his party. And as you mentioned, the quality of the dream depends on what type of dream you consume for the night, and the bard dreams are very efficient. Obviously, it's not very easy to have a bard coming to your house every night. So for the common people, it would be normal dreams. But as a party, you say, "Oh, we have even better than the everyday's dreams."
Yeah. Especially because you're going on adventures at the same time and then turning those adventures into stories.
Exactly.
Which I suppose actually links back to my earlier question about different systems that you could have designed this for. The one that came to my mind when I read about the dreams was Ryotama, because one of the core things in Ryotama is the whole point of the game, basically, or the whole premise of the game, is to be going on journeys to tell stories to these like ancient world dragons, and the dragons can only like create new seasons once they've been told enough stories.
Just for this work, I really tried to take inspiration from old tales that it's really like a gathering of all this inspiration. I won't hide it. It's part of the project, and for most of them, it's from my mom. When I was a kid, she used to put me and my brother to sleep by reading us tales. Like tales from tales books. So I have also a lot of inspiration from here, and that's. I think everybody will recognize maybe a bit there and here. But it's also because this is how the Vales and the region guide works. And because I'm mentioning this because some DM may be like a bit, how does it work exactly? And just to mention that the manifestation that are the most impressive manifestations of mystic events, they are very local. So you may have a town in which this manifestation allows people to trade more than physical things. You can trade your skills. You can trade your pain. You're in pain, or you're mooring someone, and you can't bear it. So you can trade it for someone who is lighthearted. So of course you will have to pay him a lot of money because he will have to carry this pain, but it's not yours anymore. Or you can buy skills at bow. If you're a rich noble or you want to, shine the court of the king for the next summer, you can buy it from a poor hunter who doesn't have, who is in debt. So it's local. It's local, which means that most of the time, as a DM, you can have your players just go through like a normal, if I may say, fantasy setting, and then when you want to just add a kind of like wow effect, you just bring them to a specific town, and you have all the material to really put it into action.
Yeah.
So it's local, which means that's why I just grab from many sources, inspiration, because it's not just one big picture.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, as a setting book, do you envision it as like one area that you could just plonk in your world, or trains like planes transport to, or have you presented it more as like here's lots of individual valleys that you could just put in your world anywhere that you need a valley that has something cool and interesting in it?
So I'd say for an experimented DM, I'm sure he can just cut the part you want and put it in his exactly where he wants. But as we planned it, it's supposed to be a region, so it's a peninsula, and it's just somewhere, and they are all grouped. Yes, as you say, it's a region. You just travel there. The free introduction scenario that is available on our website is the beginning of the story is exactly that. It's a far land, like a trade harbor, and they just come from ships, like I don't know, maybe 1 month's journey in high seas, and then they arrive there. So it's just a distance land. And how the story about this is something fall from the sky like 300 years ago. It's a giant sphere, a radiant sphere. It's like 20,000 feet high, so like a mountain, and it's irradiating something that created these changes. So it's really local. Like after a distance, it doesn't affect the world anymore. But in the Exalted Vales, it changed a lot of things. So that's why it's supposed to be, to answer to you, just in this region. Mysteries to discover for the players about really what happened there.
Is there so I guess, is there advice for GMs written on like how they can fit it into their world, or?
Yeah. Well, we have a few pages about this, but really how it is, I think the main we propose different ways to add it for DMs, but really I think the main one who really worked well with the DM to which we gave the material for playtest, just say distance land. For example, I've just played it like last week, and I say your characters come from Waterdeep. You take the boat, you pass by the Baldur's Gate to pick up a second party member, and then you journey and far in the south, and then you reach the Exalted Vales. That's it. Except if your players are all cartographer expert, there is no Exalted Vales on the map until you reach the But I think like for 99% of players would be like, okay, it's somewhere in the south in the distant land. Okay,
Yeah, no, fair
you
enough.
trade space for things. Okay, that's it.
I suppose on the topic of playtesting, I have to admit I haven't actually played D&D 5th edition, but I've played a lot of D&D 3rd and 3.5 back in the day, a little bit of 4th, and I dabble in a few sort of OSR games. In reading the Mechanist class that you've created, I couldn't help but feel like it seemed a little bit overpowered in places. And I was wondering what your experience has been with that class in playtesting, and whether you think it is imbalanced or whether you think it's just right, and whether you think that's even important consideration in game design in general.
Well, first, this is playtest material, what? So people who are listening to this, they don't know what is in detail the Mechanist. But for the answers is, first for me, balance is super important. Balance is important first because it's compatible. So when I'm designing all the class and archetypes, I just have all my books of D&D. I have my Xanatar, I have my Sword Coast, my player handbook, and that's it won't be I would just want people to say, okay, I have 4 regular class, official class, and this from this setting, and it's gonna fit. And it's not too hard to do because there is an incredible amount of material on the net just to check. Damage pattern for all class from level 1 to level 20. I don't know how many times those people spend to put this into place, but it exists.
People on the internet will do crazy, ridiculous things like that. I know because I've been one of them.
Yeah, but it's a gold mine.
Yeah.
But I'm used to run playtest and work with playtest teams for my video games. So it was very easy for me to translate this for role-playing game. So if it's a bit imbalanced now in the playtest, because I really want first to, you know the drill, just to check the limits everywhere I can go, and then I will have the big picture, and then I will reduce. But there will be playtests, there will be more playtests, and for me they're very important for the balance, because when you have to fight against the rules as DM, you have to turn down things. You're like, or the opposite is true when you have one player who really just struggle to have any influence in the combat, and you're like, I don't know what I can do.
Yeah.
But at least in that case, you can just give him a new magic items or a feat or something. But I don't want DM to have to fight against this. So
no, I do think that's an important way of looking at it, actually, in terms of trying to ease the amount of extra work that a DM has to do. Well, I won't call any out, but there's a few like OSR products that have been written that I've read where like you read it and you think, oh, that's really cool, but then it doesn't properly explain how you would implement it. And so you have to be someone like me, like a tinkerer GM, to actually implement it in a useful way. And that's quite a lot of work, usually, depending on what system you're playing. So it's useful if that work has been done for you very often. Yeah. So I saw, talking about the dreams again, I saw how you had written some effects for when you don't have dreams for a number of days. You get these sort of cumulative negative effects that start building up on your character. And that got me thinking about just negative effects, and well, especially permanent negative effects in games, and what you think of them, and sort of where you place them in terms of importance when designing.
That is a very, very interesting question, but also very tricky question, because that goes in a lot of directions. First, I think myself, I love it. We when you see some RPGs, when you choose from the beginning, at character creation, you can have negative qualities like I'm missing an eye, or my hand, I can't really move my hand. that put more color in the characters. That really give it a little something, which is not in D&D 5e.
Yeah, I feel 5th edition shies away from those sorts of things usually, at least from what I've read of it.
Yeah, and I think that's because they really, when they started this project for 5e, that's absolutely clear, crystal clear to me. They just gathered around the board and they say, we want this to be for as broad as possible for casual players, whatever players. And so I'm I bet they said we won't go in the permanent negative modifier because that's something that's maybe not be for casual players. My character sheet is like hindered by this, hurt forever. But this is a super cool mechanic for players who really take it positively. So it's very hard because then I have to do the same because I'm in the 5e system. I want to maybe to talk to more advanced players, but nonetheless, that's a real question. How player will feel will they feel comfortable about this? So it's a very harsh question, but I think it's a super cool mechanic. Personally, that's a real change because you fought against dragons 2 months later, right? And you're like full health. You just made your long rest, and what in your timeline, what's left about it?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that in terms of like being able to show your scars.
Exactly.
And when that has a mechanical effect and it's like on your character sheet and you're always reminded of it, and it's like maybe it's hindering you in some ways, but maybe you can find ways for it to be a bonus in other ways, but like it's part of your character potentially forever now. It's been a while since I've seen games do that, but one of my favorites is a game called Burning Wheel, where whenever you take wounds, like they take ages to heal from, and they almost always leave scars, and they'll like permanently deplete your stats and stuff. And I think it's really cool, but I totally know where you're coming from in that it can turn people off, because I've had players in the past when running Burning Wheel who've gotten injured and then felt like they don't want to play their character anymore because they've been damaged in some way, which is kind of sad.
But on that point, I think really as game designers, it's very easy because you can take something which was how do you say, an ordeal. You really had to fight for this. You have this. When I say scar, I mean scar. It can be not physical scar, right? It can be like something stays on your character. First, you're 100% right. It makes far more sense if it goes from the narrative, but has an impact on the mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
Because you just have this burnt here. It's okay, but it's just for the look and feel. But it should impact the game. But the thing is, you've granted an item to your first player in the party, then the second character has been blessed by a god, and those are two positive things they had. So mechanic wise, it is a positive effect on the character sheet, but we can just then go on this third member of your party of players, and we go with something a bit negative at first narratively, but then it's a bonus mechanic wise. So the player both has this remembrance of this souvenir of this car, and then he can be happy because yes, of course he had this, but it has a positive effect. Like in game, I remembered I've maybe now in the Exalted Vales I've done something a bit similar with you have a problem with a ghost or a part of a ghost who went inside your body. So it is negative somehow. You're cursed. But then you can take advantage of that curse to be able to detect, like a paladin divine sense, because you can detect other evil creatures around you. So in the end, okay, the end is a bit strange. You have this strange purple color when you show your arm, but yeah, the player is happy. On his character sheet, it's just a bonus. So that way you have everything. So that's the way I envision how you can do this.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a cool way of handling it, and it's just reminded me of like of magic items where I don't know if you do this, but whenever I add a magic item to the game, or give a magic item to my players, I always try and give it some kind of drawback or some kind of like, not necessarily a negative effect, but like limitations, things like that. I think they're the most interesting kinds of magic items. What's your feeling on that?
I'd say limitation was the word for me. I don't do that all the time, but I do it a lot because I think it creates even more more, it brings more creativity at the table. 100% it can make things more interesting.
Yeah.
And for a lot of things I'm designing, I have this in mind, but because this is my main I'd say main strengths. And anyway, the way I work is when we do the playtest, when I create, there'll be magic items or abilities. Always, I want them to be like, players can't just use them; they have to work a way to have it work the best. So,
I suppose on level loss specifically, that is definitely something that's been phased out of 5th edition D&D. But I think it's one of the more interesting permanent effects, because it's actually not permanent, because you can get the levels back by just continuing to play the game. Have you had much experience with those kinds of effects where it's sort of, it initially feels devastating, but it's really just a setback?
Well, on that one, I'd say I think it's very hard to handle for a DM. First, because we can see a shift from edition to edition. Now they really, of course, they give experience points, but they really push players to start just going with milestones for everybody, because it's easier for them to design, for the campaigns to be designed, and it's more fair. We all have these crazy stories of kids DM would just say, no, you're just level 2, but they're all level 6. What I'm supposed to do, like die at the first one at every encounter, and that's not very functional. And I think that when you move, when you're in experience point, you can have disparity in between levels in your group. But once you move to milestones, then it's hard to go with this. I think level loss, because it's meta, right? It's almost meta. But okay, now we are on the third part of the campaign. You all play off level 5. Congratulations, and you go back to 4. So, I think now that it's mostly milestones and it's started being mainstream.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of hard to put in.
Yeah, you're probably right there, actually, because there is this. I suppose it comes back to game balance. Like, there's this want for everyone to be feeling like they're pulling an equal amount of weight, and if someone gets set back to 4th level whilst everyone else gets to 5th level, then it's sort of like they suddenly feel like they're I guess dragging the party down or something, maybe. So it probably affects the social dynamic more than anything.
Yeah, that's my thinking. Yeah, on the other hand, if you have your face burn, and we say your charisma goes a bit down, but now you have advantage or intimidation because you're really scary. That's permanent.
Yeah,
that's a trade-off, and you're like, I'm not behind players, or maybe just specifically on my charisma and persuasion, but not at a meta level. I'm with the group.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, and it's sort of then you're trading something for something else, and that probably does have a better game feel. So, as a writer, for me at least, I find that like looking at or taking inspiration from legends and mythology and history is like probably one of my biggest sources of inspiration usually, or at least it's my first point of reference. And something that I'm interested in as a writer is sort of when you're making up your own myths, especially in a fantasy setting, how much sort of truth to include in the myth. For example, I suppose like a griffin is a mythological heraldic beast, and whether if you're in a fantasy world and there are griffins in your fantasy world and they're real, do they still count as a mythological beast? Or are the mythological things even more crazy and fantastic? I think it's always interesting to find that balance. How do you feel about some of that?
Well, first, if it's what you meant, I'd agree with you that when you go in a fantasy world, you push mythical things one step more mystical or mythical. And at first I'd say yes, because then it would mean your universe is plain and bland, everybody knows. And I'd say that even if I am a wizard and I am with a ranger who can heal just by touch, still for us in everyday life we don't meet every day very strange creatures. There are many more mysteries, and they can be creatures in that field of mysteries and unknown things. That's for sure. I even think that sometimes in some settings or stories, like if the dragon is ruling the city, is it still really a dragon? It's just the mayor. The fact is the dragon is not really relevant there.
Yeah.
It just put a new law, and I can have my shop open after midnight. It's really like start to being non-mythical at all.
Yeah.
And on the topic of legends, that's also a great inspiration for me. And I love when players have heard this legend, and they're adventurous, so they will not just hear about this. They will go there and check, or for some reason they are involved in the source of this legend. And I love the first thing is it can help them to resolve problems, because they, like the Indiana Jones who remembers something and he knows he has to.
Yeah.
So it can help the players, and they feel I think they feel brilliant, because they thought about this, because they deciphered a bit the legend. It's like they took pieces to understand what they have to do now. So that is very useful as a DM to give to your players, because it's not plain clues. It's more like, think about the legend again. What does it say exactly? It says 2 by 2. Oh god. And the second thing I love is when you have this legend for the players for a few sessions, and when they learn the truth, it's more like, when you move around an object, the legend is still true somehow, but now players can understand why the peasant or the common people think something. And now they think this because they don't have the full picture, but we understand why. Why they make this strange sacrifice of one animal every year. It's just their explanation is this, and we now have the full picture. And if it's really creative, the real reason behind it, you're like, they've gained something. It's not a level it's like, now I know.
I think for me the thing that I always struggle with is like when they turn that object or when they see it from that new angle, I always struggle to decide whether the new angle makes it even more fantastical or whether the new angle makes it suddenly very mundane.
Yeah. Well, it's not easy to go on that, but this is what is the cool part in the project Exalted Vales is, because I told you it's really local and many spots. I've got a bit of everything, many mysteries to discover. Not all of them like wow revelation about the full universe, or not all of them. And it's also, of course, for us GM, it's a very good how do you say, adventure hooks. Start of plots for
It can be difficult to make that decision, I think, because there's so much time invested in the adventure that like there's this sense of like wanting to just keep upping it and making it more and more amazing, and like people get so invested in it that you're like, oh, it has to be great, it has to be, the legend must be true, and like
somehow.
And I think you can fall into a sort of power creep trap there at times.
Yeah.
So it's good to balance that out.
Well, in Exalted Vales, at least, because it's local, you have I think, how do you say, expectation. If it affects only one town and it's just a a pleasant mystery that resolves the what is it exactly, because players already know it's only in this town, so it's okay if it's not it's not like a revelation about all the universe.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. That helps a lot.
Yeah, I suppose my follow-up to that would be like how you can use legends or mythology to shape a culture, and how you can sort of say something about a people based on what they believe, or what legends they tell each other at night. Yeah, I suppose where do you start when you're writing something like that? Like,
well, I'd say I really work a lot on this. This is a very interesting question, because I think that a lot of efforts put into asking the question to ourselves: what does it change for the full society if this strange things or legend is true and really influence this? So I think it's a lot of work to have this, imagine how the cultural society is changed. But then it's very easy for DM to read this. I can just one small paragraph, and then when he will explain this region to the players in a few words, they are in a different settings. So I think it's a very important work to do. And I have just one very simple example. If there is one manifestation in one region of the Vales, which is called the Great Lioness. And what happened in that region is that the Great Lioness in that region, you can't impregnate females of any race. You can't impregnate. This is a word, impregnate.
Impregnate. Yeah.
Impregnate women.
Yeah.
Women just decides on the first day of summer to be pregnant or not. It's just their own decision. They don't need the help of anyone.
Yeah.
And a few months before, there are special winds, special magic winds that by night go on the skin by everywhere, but they just make some strange spark go out of males, and it all go nobody knows where. And then on the first day of summer, women are pregnant. And in that culture, that changed two things. The first is women are then the only core of families, because there is no male in the process.
There's no father.
Yeah, in a medieval setting, that means that the power is held by women, because they represents the family. So if you have noble houses, then it's only females who just how do you say, inherent by the mother. The mother gives the titles, the wealth, and of course it goes up to the highest level of the society. So you are in a full matriarchal society for a mystical reason. So for players, it's just they do their adventures, but now they have to. This translates women are in charge of everything. So it doesn't change much. I mean, you still have your own adventure. Just there are very, very high chances that this is a queen who is going to meet you in person if you did good deeds in this region. And the second one is because it's obviously the wind has taken this sparks from all males. In that region, there is no concept of orphan. Nobody is never orphan. You can't be an orphan, because for them it doesn't make sense, because all males have participated in this win. So they have a special name for kids who we don't know who is the mother, or the mother is dead, but they are always adopted immediately by the town in which they live. And it's a great honor as a male or female to say, I will take care of this kid. And it's not like an adoption, because they've been the male have been part of the process. So it's not an adoption, it's our kid. It is. I don't know how much, but it is our kid.
Yeah.
So that's how it gonna. The players come there in a few sentences, like I don't know, but for me it's real where the book can help, and it shines for players. They just I don't know, like an ambush by goblins, and they are kids, but the parents are dead, and maybe they're like, oh, we have orphans, we bring back to the village, and then the DM described this scene where they just immediately like they think adopted, and then they explain what happens. Nothing.
Yeah.
All kids are our kids. Why? What happened there? No, okay. Oh, okay. So you don't have an orphanage? No, that does not even exist. So just a smile on the player's face. It may not be part of the adventure, but I'm somewhere special.
Yeah.
And for the Great Lioness manifestation, there is one. other small thing, because I want to get the picture of all this manifestation, is once per year. So at the first day of summer, the women choose to be pregnant because they go outside and they see something in the sky. Something happen every year. And if you are a male and you dare to look in the sky on that night, you turn into an animal forever. So it's not a legend. It is the honest truth. Just don't go outside. But if you're a female character, you will see something in the sky. So the DM will just disclose it just for you, and you will have a small. You will have a small bonus on your character sheet forever. You will see a very special wisdom there that will just translate into your characters. And just so you know, the queen, who is ruling one of the main kingdoms in this region, is known to have 48 cats. 48 people who displeased her, and because it's a death penalty in this kingdom, which is considered to be merciful. You are just attached outside, eye open to the sky, so you change into an animal.
Yeah, you don't die; you just become an animal.
Exactly.
I suppose that is a permanent effect. Like, what would happen if a player did that?
It is covered by the rules. It is covered by the rules, but that's, to be fair, that's really because they are not gods, right? So you can't try to undo it, but it will be more than just it's not a greater restoration, that's kind of spell you can buy. No, it's going to be an adventure.
Yeah,
it's going to be a quest for the players. You can undo it, but not that easily.
Yeah, I mean that makes new adventure hooks, and that's just more grist for the game, which is always good, I feel. So still on the topic of mythology, I think one of my favorite ways to think about legends specifically is to ask, in any setting, to ask the question, what is a dragon? Because, at least in my own research, something resembling a dragon seems to show up in almost every culture, but each is different and given different attributes and associations and different emphases and stuff. There's the classic Western dragon and the Chinese dragons and everything in between. The example that I'll give, just to kind of set you up, is there's a monster manual / setting book that I'm quite fond of called Fire on the Velvet Horizon. It's quite weird and esoteric, but there's a monster in that book called a Boa Constructor, which is a gigantic boa snake that has human arms instead of teeth. And it yes yeah, and it basically has the ability to build stuff with these arms, or it can fight with these arms. So it's, in many ways, it's also similar to like a Greek hecatonchia. But this snake will basically, as it grows bigger and bigger, it becomes more and more dexterous and more skilled with manipulating these arms, to the point where in its old age, once it's a few hundred years old, it'll basically start building a grand palace, and eventually it'll start building a city around itself, and it will become like the mayor of that city or the king of that city, and it will demand tribute until it builds up a giant, basically, treasure palace. And in reading all of that, the first thing I thought was, this is just a dragon. Mm-hmm. This is a very weird dragon, but it's a dragon. So my question to you for Exalted Vales would be, what is a dragon?
Well, first, this is an incredible creature, and that raises question. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say for the Exalted Vales, if I want to stay on the topic of, what is a dragon, I'd go for the Mesoamerican culture with the feathered serpent,
mm-hmm.
who is like a flying dragon, right? Somehow, he's depicted as a what we would call a dragon.
Yeah, the Quetzalcoatl, I think it is.
I would dare try to pronounce this in English, but you've done it for me. And I think that would represent the Exalted Vales, because I like this culture, and he is a strange creature because he's said to have participated, helped for the creation of mankind. But we don't know exactly what he's done, and he's clearly not the one who's done it. He helped. What did he do? What did he do exactly? We don't know. He also can change into human form and do very mundane things. Not mundane, but not like the creation of the universe. He changed into a human to just interact with humans. So he's near from us. But what is this creation of mankind? What did he do there? We don't know exactly. And also, he's supposed to be the link between Earth and sky. But what exactly does it mean? So we have this. I think he really represents the Veils. It's like maybe you will meet him in a human form. Maybe you'll do some really simple things with him. But what's behind? Who exactly he is? It's obvious when you read about the Fifth Serpent that if it were an RPG, there would be like a lot of things to discover about him. How exactly is he involved? What is his relation with the gods? He is a god or not a god? If he's a god, why is sometimes just mangled with normal humans? What is doing? Does he have goals, an agenda? That's so much thing to discover, and that's a dragon that holds a lot of secrets.
Very cool. I guess a follow-up to that would be, how do you feel about like giving stat blocks to creatures like that? I think it was Gary Gygax who talked about like his regrets when he published a book about the like gods in D&D, and he gave the gods stat blocks, and he was really annoyed because as soon as he gave them stat blocks, that meant they were killable. And so players started killing the gods, and that really annoyed him. Like, how do you feel about that in general, not just for gods, like any big important creature?
Well, we'll go very personal here, but I've been hurt. When I was maybe, 15, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I was playing Warhammer Battle. I was playing the Undead, and I was the proud member of the Undead faction, and our most known character was Nagash himself. Nagash, he just went to death and said, "Not today." He bit her and go back to the world. That was incredible. For me, when I was 15, it was such a story. And then they gave him a miniatures and stats. And that day, my friend was able to kill him with just one cannonball of dwarf army. And that just killed the story. I can't be killed by a cannonball. I fought death, I think, twice maybe, and won. That just doesn't make sense. So now, that stays here. I'm really. What is in the Exalted Vales, and already people can see, because there is. I will not spoil, but there is something a bit shady in the introduction scenario, and I think that 100%. If you want to make powerful gods, but like Tyr, God of Justice, maybe you can go with stat block because he doesn't have anything to hide. It can be just powerful. But if you want to do something, what I want to do in the Exalted Vales is I always want to do. I don't know exactly how to explain it. I will go with maybe the X-Files, but I'm not sure this explanation. But at the end of the X-Files, you're not 100% sure what you've. The explanation is not fully revealing. Like, you still have questions behind. You're not always sure, or maybe something, because maybe X-Files is not really in the theme. But if we go in the Lord of the Rings, and when Galadriel say, "I don't want the ring," something wrong can happen if I have it. But it's unclear what will happen, because it doesn't seem she said, "I will have to obey to Sauron." She said, "I will become a queen of." We don't know exactly what. Yeah, there is still some mysteries after you've been told that no, I will not take the ring. So if you put stat block, it doesn't help to cultivate the mysteries behind the mysteries. Never have the perfect full picture, full answer for the players. So that's why maybe it was sad to have put stat blocks on gods. Is if you're writing a story and they say this is far out of reach of the players, no need for stats. If one day, or maybe in the Exalted Vales, it happens sometime. If you meet the Great Lioness, no need for a stat block. Whatever you do, it's absolutely not on our level. So you can interact as she wishes to, but nothing more. So I will just draw a few lines and just say she can't be affected by anything. And appearance is like have a dream. Players are not really in control of what happens. And almost for me, the best one is they interacted with this. And in the morning, the GM is unclear when he explained that they wake up. Was it a dream? Was it not a dream? But because, if it were a dream, now I understand why I was not able to affect her for real with I'm level 16, why I didn't do. Or if it's a dream, it's clear. It's just because it wasn't a dream, so the players is. But then why do I have this object she gave me? Where does it come from if it's a dream? But it's obviously a dream because I didn't get out of this. We'll never know. Move on the next scene.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy stuff like that. Sort of these paradoxes that players can't really ever know the answer to, because that's how you build mystery. I feel if you're showing too much of your hand, then it loses that sense of immersion. I suppose another way to handle it that I've seen is to still give the powerful creature or whatever it is, still give it rules, but give it rules that are like operating on a completely different level to the rest of the game. So like they don't care, they don't have like strength, dex, charisma, anything like that. They're using a completely different game system to play the game or whatever. And that also helps create this like discontinuity. It really helps to I find at least that can help to sell the players on the fact that they're dealing with something completely otherworldly or completely different when the GM like say that they start interacting with it, and then the GM like pulls out a deck of cards and uses the deck of cards to like determine what the thing does or something. And it's like that completely different medium is enough to demonstrate mechanically the narrative effect of this creature is different and weird. And I think that circles back around to what I was trying to talk about before, where mechanics can also inform the narrative, I feel.
That's very interesting. I never thought about it this way, but I clearly can envision that it's in game. It's the action the creature takes, so it's part of the narrative as well, because it's both the same thing, and it's a clear signal for the players. It's very easy to understand. They take the special turn in between turns. Why there are turns in between turns?
Yeah.
For him, yes. Wow, that's okay.
I think actually, I guess a layer action is an example of that.
Yeah.
Or it's close to something like that. I remember the first time I saw, I think it was Critical Role or something, when the first time Matt Mercer used a layer action, and everyone at the table was like, "Whoa, what the hell is a layer action?" like it really throws a spanner in terms of it, like what people are expecting, and I think that can be a really useful tool.
Yeah, but that's very interesting because I have this in Exalted Vales for some creature monsters, but I've always used it as a like possible opposition level. I never thought about it at a very high level. We have this strange. It's obviously coming from Doctor Who with this. You should not blink in front of those statues.
Oh yeah.
So we have this monster, and I've played it in a few games, and I must say, it's terrifying for the players. He doesn't have a turn.
Yeah.
But each time a player plays, it acts, which gives the feeling of this. You should not blink, because if you play, it's your turn, you play, so obviously you've done something with your eyes.
Yeah.
I know it's not exactly about it, and then it reacts for you, and then someone else play, it reacts for him. And of course, I give the rule to the players: if you wish to skip your turn, it won't play on your turn.
Yes. So
which is the same as I keep my eyes closed, so it's like, should I not? Is it a game and it works perfectly.
Yeah, that's really smart.
It's still on an opposition level, so I'm thinking about this for my higher level creatures.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, that's one of my things that I've been thinking about. Like, yeah, high level game design stuff. I suppose I forget the artist who said it, but there was either a writer or an artist who quite famously said, the medium is the message. Have you heard this expression?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's taking that but applying it to game design, I guess. But yeah, no, that sounds like a cool monster encounter, because like, yeah, it would make you think about whether you want to take your turn or not.
Yeah. But even I think this is why I love to do in my game design is once you've played it, it feels like it's exactly the statue reacts to what you're doing. Mechanically, it's just I play after you played, but it really gives this feeling, especially because of course I put everything in the same package. So when it starts playing after you played, it teleports and moves super fast, like almost like a mirror to your action. So it gives this feeling from mechanics to narrative, exactly in this direction for once.
No, that's great. I guess my follow up to that would be, so you mentioned you explain this to the players. Like, at what point do you reveal what's actually happening? Do you sort of let it play without explaining for a couple of rounds first, or do you say, like, as soon as the encounter begins, okay, this is the way this monster works? Like, how long do you leave the mystery hanging, I guess?
Well, it depends. And first, and again, this is in the PDF, so you've read it. I really want any GM can do their encounters and fights, and I won't be providing any money-worthy content if I just put more encounters. So all other encounters in the campaign that is in the book or in this free scenario, I want to add some value to this. So, and one of the way to do it is to give clear rules, but it can be narrative rules, like something will happen in 5 rounds, or you want something that just make this combat more interesting, because there is another layer which is not resolved by just attacking. So they have to take action, they have to be creative, and then we are in role-playing game. And as a GM, I know that sometimes it takes some time to think about this. What is a fight on a train, on the roof of a train moving very fast? It's cool, but what could be the rules? And it takes some time to playtest and make sure it works. So this is something we have in the book, and this is the way I do that. And I'd say, so my answer is, most of the time it's better to say this clearly to the players at the beginning. So we are if we are going to spend half an hour and 1 hour in a combat scene, they know exactly what are the odds, so they can start to be creative. No need to wait for too long. But when a creature can have something strange about her, I'd say it's not necessarily useful to reveal it, because they will experience this firsthand. I move, it moves. You move, it moves. What? We just played. I said it moved. Take your turn. I freeze. It doesn't move. Next. Oh, we've got it. It's part. In that case, it's part of the solution is to have the player experiments this themselves.
Yeah.
So it's really on a case by case basis.
Yeah, fair enough. That's probably the best way to handle it as well, to be fair. So would you say that creature is the favorite thing that you've designed, or are there other things, like other monsters or manifestations that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, there's one. I like it from my heart, but it's not a creature nor monsters. It's a race, so it's a playable race for players. And I think it really is. It has all what I think could be cool in Exalted Vales, but also really, propose new thing for players. So there's a ton of book you can already buy. So I want to put something new, especially for players who already played a lot. And this race is called the Fateborn. And in the Exalted Vales, mystical things can happen because of the presence of the sphere. So there is one thing is, it calls the Fateborn, is when a person or a group of person really wish something so much that this energy, this will they have, it will just transform into something real at one point, and it's a fate born. So he's born with no. He didn't grow. He has how he was wished. Then he exists. And when this person who wished for him to exist dies or disappears, he will vanish as well, because why he was there is over. So and I wrote a story that is you can find on our Facebook page just to illustrate this. And it's not something epic or about adventure. It's just a mother who lost her son, and she just can't go over this loss. So she wished for her son to be here, and then a Fateborn appears and travel to the small village, and he will stand by her. It's not really her mom, but he will be there for her until her last day. And the day she dies, very happy because she found relief by his presence. And when she dies, he will just disappear as well. He has done his purpose. And then, so this is really Exalted Vales mystery things, but it goes down to just 4 players. How many background stories you've wrote for your characters already? But now, for once, it's not who are his parents and where he's born, because he's not.
Yeah.
So it's just a new way to approach. Okay, my backstory is why I'm here. Who wished for me? Maybe I will do a lawful good character, and because you can choose either to, because some Fateborn they're born with a knowledge of why they've been called, but some of them don't. They have no idea why they're here. So maybe you do. For players who want to go in various very interesting stories, you can be a lawful good character, and when you, for the first time, you meet the people who wished for you to be there, is because they want you to murder someone. This village has been is struggling against a tyrant that just tax them, execute people for no reason, and they want him to die. So they wished somehow, as a collective, that they wish for someone to save them from this person. So then you have a problem, because it's not your moral. You don't want to kill people, but or it can be anything. But that's just a new way to think your backstories.
Yeah.
So that's very that's unique.
No, that's really cool, and I enjoyed reading the story that you mentioned.
Oh,
I hadn't realized that they were playable, that they were a playable race though.
Oh, they are.
How, like, what happened? Have you thought about what happens when they complete the thing that they were brought into existence to do, or what happens if the people that believe in them die? Is there a way to account for that, or is it just bye make a new character?
Because that's just for new tasty backstory. It's I don't know how you say this in English. It's the GM has to be. It's his role to say, okay, she lives in a peaceful village and she will not have problem during all the campaign. I will not make you disappear for no reason. It's a GM discretion to use this, but it can be used as a tool, because if she's kidnapped, that really changed the question: should I help her or not? Because it's not just a question of helping friends; it's a question of
staying alive.
Staying alive.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But that's really, there is something for the GM about the Fateborn. It's really just, it's for the pleasure to play this race. They should not, It's for the backstory.
Yeah.
Unless you want to make an adventure about this, it's for the decorum.
I could see the now that you've sort of talked about it a bit more, I could see them being a great race to play if you were doing a one-on-one game. You'd have the player is you have one player and they're Faithborn. I think that could be a really cool story to run through with someone. Sorry, this is just my brain like thinking of cool things now. Like it's definitely like so. Yeah, I think I'll end on that. Like the Exalted Vale as a setting, from what I've seen so far, is really evocative. It like in reading it, it makes me go, "Oh, that's really cool. I wonder how I could fit that into my game," or "That's really cool. I wonder what stories I could tell with that." And so I think from that point of view, especially in talking to you today, it seems like that was your goal, and you've been successful in that so far. So I'm very excited to see where the project takes you, and I'm looking forward to reading the final thing. So, is there anything else you want to say, or anything else you want to plug, or before we close out?
In fact, not at all, because we really covered a lot of very interesting thing about the project, and yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun having you on. It's always difficult to end these things, so I'll just say thank you very much for watching or listening if you've made it this far, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.